Hey everyone, so today we're building a magnificent restaurant for the Mythos main street. Now before we actually get started with that, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more. Now let the chaos begin. Alright, starting off with the main feature of the restaurant, which is a huge glass window and roof. Also the back portion of this building is predominantly glass, so there's just a lot of glass, which makes this part of the building very bright actually. But anyway, so why a restaurant at the main street? Well, because to me it kind of makes sense that, like, if let's say the park closes at 8, 7 or something, it makes sense to have like a restaurant at the entrance so that the restaurant is like maybe open until 8 or 9. All of the attractions close at like 7 to kind of funnel people to the exit. But then this restaurant is open for a bit longer so that people can get some food or something to eat before they go on the road, going home and such. So that's why I wanted to have a restaurant at the main street, and also just to bring another feature to the main street. And was it always supposed to look like this? Or have this window, because the rest of the building isn't laid out yet, so But was it always supposed to have this giant window? No. Definitely not. It was also at one point supposed to have a courtyard. Like, the layout of this restaurant has changed so much from like the original idea that I had when I started Mythos to what we're building now. It was always supposed to be in this location though. But I just had, like, the original idea was, for anyone who's ever played Assassin's Creed Unity, it was supposed to look like the headquarters of the Assassins in Paris in that game. I'm not going to even try and pronounce it the French way. I was going to say pronounce it the Dutch way, which, I mean, granted, when it comes to me, I'm a squirrel, so I will butcher any language, even the one that I was born with. But, yeah, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it the French way, but it's the Theater Cafe. In the game, it's like the Cafe Theater, but obviously spoken French, so it sounds much nicer. But it was supposed to originally look like that. Like, the restaurant was supposed to look like that. And then I scrolled through Pinterest, just doom scrolling Pinterest, and saw this window. It's from another game, I can't remember the game, but it was just like, I could try that. And then hyperfocus squirrel mode set in, and I built this in like an hour. Like, the entire window and the roof. It was 2 settings though, because I'm a squirrel. After 30 minutes of building, I get bored and I need to do something else, otherwise brain shuts down and then I don't like building anymore. And I have to avoid that, because then I start disliking the thing that I'm building, because I'm associating it with brain shutdown modes. So yeah. So in 2 30-minute sessions, I built the entire window. Again, this window, like the entire design, I just copied off of that inspiration picture. So it's not my own design. I did slightly modify it, but then also it was hyper-focus mode. So I was just like, oh, this looks pretty. Oh, I can do this and this and this. And so there's slight changes throughout it, but the majority of it is still the same. And I just love it. Also, I like that I stuck with the green color, because I was thinking of like, oh, let's make it the brown, like the brown of like the metal from like the coaster that we've just built. But I like that, in the inspiration pic, this just shows that like this is not really my original idea. It was also green, and I was like, oh yeah, let's build it like that, and maybe we'll keep it like that. I don't know. But I'm very happy that we kept it this way, because it makes it stand out even more. But yeah, so built this entire thing in an hour, maybe an hour and a half. When you're in hyper focus mode, or at least when I'm in hyper focus mode, you kind of forget that time exists. You also forget to eat, which is a bad thing. But yeah, if you're looking at this and already thinking this is a lot of pieces and such, the rest of the restaurant is more. I was thinking like, oh, I can build this restaurant and put it on the workshop. This window in itself is 3,000 pieces. No way in hell is the rest of the restaurant going to be able to be fit into a blueprint. Now you might wonder, why did I make the windows very dark in the beginning? That's because if I made it completely transparent, I sometimes have difficulty seeing where I placed windows and where I didn't. So I will do this with other things as well sometimes, or with other windows, where I just make them completely white or just like untransparent. I don't know what the opposite word of transparent is right now, but like I do that just to see like, oh, I put the windows in here. Because the glass is good. And I'm also, when I was, now that I'm thinking of the glass, I'm wondering, 99% certain we can't do this, but can we do like a Pepper's Ghost effect in Planet Coaster 2? Because that would be really great with dark rides. But I don't think we can, because I don't think the game can do that. But maybe. Also, this is just a side note, but like what I want the next build to be, I needed to figure out how to make bones and not make them look goofy. And then I tried to build a skull, because I did work out the bones, but the skull didn't really work. So I don't know what the next build is, but at least now you know that. I also went through the entire library of the Louvre, paintings-wise, from the 1700s to the 1850s. There's a lot of paintings. Also, for some reason, the French love painting courtesans. For some reason, there's a lot of weird paintings in the Louvre. Well, maybe not on display, but like in the back. But yeah, I went through the entire collection just because I was just like, I need this specific thing, like this specific painting with this specific subject. I'm going to try and find it. I did find it, and then I had the nightmarish job of photoshopping it so that it worked with the rides. How was your afternoon spent? Mine was spent going through the entire painting collection of the Louvre from the 1750s to the... No, from the 1700s actually to the 1850s. It was fun. Hyperfocus mode is just... It's something else, isn't it? Because I was just like cheerfully just searching through that entire database. It's also really nice that like the Louvre has that entire database. Also, I think it's not just the Louvre, it's like a shared database for like some other museums as well, but I'm not sure. But yeah, there was a lot of paintings, a lot of courtesans. Also a lot of landscapes. Like, really a lot of landscapes. Also, a lot of... No, I probably wouldn't be able to say that, but let's just move on. There's just a lot of interesting paintings in the Louvre. And no, I did not look up the Mona Lisa, because that's not the time period I was searching. Also, it keeps astonishing me how tiny the Mona Lisa is, actually. Anyways, back to the actual building before I go onto another tangent about the Louvre. Again, love that they have a database that you can just search up. So now I will just get all of the paintings that I have or need for Mythos, as in the main street. I will just get them from the Louvre, which sounds a lot better than just, oh, I will get them from Google. But anyways, back to the actual building. So of course, I need a grand entrance, and I would suspect that like, if this restaurant was real and Mythos was real, there would probably be like some like character that would at times show up at the terrace here. Like maybe like the main mascot, or like all of like the different mascots, and they just show up here for like just waving, because the guests will not be able to get up there, or they are not allowed to get up there. Also don't know how they get up there, because I didn't put doors in. I am sure that like part of that window can open up, but like the rest of the building doesn't have doors to like the main section, or like I think it's called the atrium of the building. So I don't know how they get up there. That's something that I kind of forgot, but I also kind of just like the blank walls. But yeah, then I also had to just sort of hide the edges, which if you want to hide edges on a building, just put a giant pillar down. Or a bush. Foliage works really well to hide things. But also pillars. And I was also thinking for like a while, I skipped a giant part here. Which I probably just forgot to record. There's a lot of things when it came to this build that I forgot to record. So the windows I forgot to record. But again, pillar on the side. But when it came to this building, I also wanted to build a tower, then realized it didn't really work. Or at least it didn't really fit in here. Because, like, it took away attention from the main feature of the restaurant. So I was kind of just like, alright. Can a tower go over here? No. Can it go over here? No. Can it go over there? No. But I want a tower. Don't worry though, the next building got a tower. Although I didn't record that. So, yeah. Anyways, I had a lot of fun building this. I have no idea actually. I built so many windows for this. Looking at the footage, I'm just like, what window is this? Oh yeah, now I remember. This is the feature window. There's a lot of feature parts of the building. There's the huge feature, which is the giant glass window. And this is just a teeny feature window on the side. Because I'm dramatic as hell. At least when it comes to buildings. Because I was just like, oh yeah, because I don't have a tower. I'm very spiteful about not being able to add a tower to this build. But because I don't have a tower, I'm going to make a feature window to the side. Also because it kind of works with like the idea that this is this is going to be confusing because it's a hotel. But then it's like the French Parisian version of a hotel, which is basically like what is it called? Like a city mansion or urban mansion thing. So it's not an hotel as we recognize today in the English language where you stay there. It's basically just a mansion that was turned into a restaurant and such. I was very tempted to put a guillotine here because reasons. But because it's supposed to be like a hotel turned into a restaurant, but then I probably should just say mansion turned into a restaurant. I wanted it to have like some features that were obviously built into it after it turned into a restaurant, after like Industrial Revolution stuff, because the feature window and the huge feature window, which is more confusing, but like all of the feature parts are metal and they're all green. I am really happy that I kept it green. And this feature window, for some reason, just reminds me of Harry Potter. I think it's specifically like the... What is that street called where Harry gets Hedwig? That street, and it had some windows that look like that. I'm certain that there's a lot of windows across the road like that. But sometimes things just kind of stick with you. And they just don't leave. One of those things, and this is going to be very embarrassing to me, but I think and this is going to make me feel really old, but I think I spent almost half a decade now on YouTube, and like all sense of shame is just gone. Like I'm like, you know when your parents get older and then they just sort of go past the age where they just like magically lose all of their shame and all of like the weird funky stories come out. That happens to me when it comes to YouTube. So I'm not ashamed anymore, but whenever it's really quiet and I just feel like it's weirdly quiet, I will just not scream, but I will just say meep, just because I feel like it's too quiet. That's from a TV show, which if I say the TV show, it doesn't make it any better. But it's like it was a very short run TV show. I think it's Viva Pinata, which was basically just sentient pinatas. And one of the characters out there, I think, said meep. Or it was from Phineas and Ferbs, where there's the alien who just screams meep. But for some reason, like, I first said it as a joke, and now I just, whenever there's silence, I just say meep. I can't explain it any further, and to me it's kind of weird, but also meep. But yeah, so back to the actual building and me being meep. I think it's from the alien of Phineas and Ferb, and I really don't know why it just stuck with me. But anyways, back to the actual building. If any one of you comments meep in the comments, I will find you, and I will play basketball with your head. Meep. Anyways, back to the actual building, which I think I said 6 times now, because my brain just doesn't allow me to go back to the actual building. But I had a lot of fun here building all of these windows and such. The upper windows here are a little bit plain. They are very squarish or very boxy. But I did not realize afterwards that, like, the windows on this side of the building and the windows on the opposite side aren't actually perfectly aligned. But at that point, when I found that out, I was just like beyond caring. I was just like, we're going to work with this. And it's not like a massive misalignment. It's just like maybe a centimeter or something in real life. But it bothered me. But not to the point where I was like, we're going to redo this. Because, I mean, look at the windows right now. Look at the feature wall. And the giant feature wasn't going to be changed. But like this wing of the restaurant, like, we're beyond the point of turning back. But yeah, I built this entire wing probably in like the span of a day. And I'm not saying like, oh, I was spending a full day building. Again, it's like 30-minute shifts and maybe 2 hours or something. But I had a lot of fun. It was, again, hyper-focus mode. But it was just fun to build this. And I was not worried at all at this point about the interior. Which was a problem later on. Because especially when it came to like, oh yeah, this is a restaurant. It needs a kitchen. I didn't think about that when I was building everything. And then it was just like, where the hell do I put the kitchen? At the end, the only thing that this building is missing though is a toilet. So yeah, you're not going to be able to go to the toilet in this restaurant because there is none. Because Poison is a dumbass who forgot to put a toilet in a restaurant, which seems like the most basic thing. But then I also think that like the frontier-made restaurants, like the blueprints that you get with just the game, I also think that they don't have toilets, but I'm not sure. But yeah, giant restaurant, and I really liked how it turned out. And the other thing is that it doesn't have chimneys, which should be weird because it's a restaurant. There's going to be a kitchen, and there's going to then, of course, there's a need for a chimney. But I felt like the building was already too busy with everything going on to then also put a chimney or multiple chimneys in. And then this wing doesn't need a chimney because this is just a dining hall basically. Yeah. And like there's no multiple floors, so there's not like, oh, there's a dining hall and then there's just like rooms up above where they might need a chimney. So this part doesn't have a chimney. It does have dormers, which made my life living hell. Especially in the interior, because just look at that roof shape that we're building right now. Just think of doing an interior for that roof. And also making it look classy. It still looks like an evil bank to me at this point. Like it went from evil villain lair to evil bank. And I mean, at the end, it looks very nice. It looks like a restaurant or a hotel, or for some reason it also makes me think of like a cinema. Not a theater, just a cinema. Which is probably a little bit too modern for this. But it's the combination of everything and then the giant glass window in the center that just made me think of cinema. I don't think Mythos would have movies. I do want to just, like, there's going to be like there is a lake between the Arabian area and the Mythos main street, and I am thinking of putting on a water show. I'm thinking that Future Poison is not going to be happy with that, because I don't like to do the sequence setup, like making sure that like the water show is an actual water show and things like go up properly and such. And yeah, that's going to be a nightmare because I am cursed when it comes to that. So yeah, there's a lot of ideas floating around, and for some things I probably need to wait because I want to have like a dark ride at the main street, which is where I had to look up a certain painting in Louvre. I had to look at or try and make bones. But I probably should wait until eventually we might get a skeleton somewhere. I don't know. I just want skeleton pieces, which is probably weird, but like for a dark ride it makes a lot of sense. To have like scary stuff and such. I don't want to just complete remake of like the spooky pack from Planet Coaster 1, but it would help with like the skeleton pieces. But yeah, I have like a really sad story in my head for the dark ride. It's kind of funny because like there's one flat ride in the main street, which is just a giant carousel. But all of the rides, either something goes wrong or it's very sad. There's no happy ride in the main street. And then like the Arabian is just total chaos. I do still want to, like, I think it's the worldly rig, and then I want to theme it so that you're like sitting in a pot, and like one of the stories of Arabian Nights is like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, and the 40 Thieves get cooked in pots with burning oil. And I kind of want to theme the worldly rig after that, because it's so funny to have like the darkest part of a story and then it be a child's ride. To me, that is just hilarious. Like, you make the grown-up rides be like very fancy and such, and then the child ride is just, if you actually think about it, pure terror. That's my kind of theme park though, to just have that. It's maybe why I like the Efteling so much, because some of the child stuff is just like, if you think about it, it's terrifying. I mean, all of the fairy tales are kind of terrifying if you think about it. But anyways, back to the actual building. So this is the second of 3 wings, and now I need to build the third one. So there's 3 wings. The second one is going to have the kitchen, which is going to be a nightmare in itself, because like I get how the kitchens work and why they made them like that for gameplay purposes. For building purposes, they are kind of a nightmare if you want to make it look like an actual kitchen. Because, spoiler alert, the kitchen that you have in Planet Coaster 2 wouldn't pass a safety or health safety thing ever. Because it's not sanitary looking at all. I do kind of wish that I could give hats to the staff. That we had like a special chef NPC or staff, because now it's just a shop vendor and it just looks bad. Also, you can only have like 4 dishes on like the menu. One of them is a sandwich, which I don't really think you're going to get in a restaurant. That just sounds like something you would get at like a stand. Again, gameplay wise, makes total sense. But then when you think about it, and when you want to do stuff with it, it starts making a lot less sense. But again, I'm primarily a builder, so gameplay doesn't really interest me. I have found it funny though that like I called it a carousel, it's not. It's like a swinging or chair swing or something like that. It's, I think, day 5 in the game right now, and it's already considered old. I know that like the time thing in Planet Coaster, it's not like, oh yeah, after a year it gets old and there's actually 365 days, but like, that was fast. It's been 5 days and it's already considered ancient. It's actually getting close to what I think is like the revival when it comes to the age of the rides. Because like after it gets old, then it starts becoming popular again because it's kind of like an iconic thing because of its age. But that was fast. And now we're doing the back of the main thing, mostly because yeah, I didn't want to do the interior just yet, especially not the kitchen. Like again, the kitchen is my personal hell in this building. And now we're going to my second hell, which was actually like, I played this up in my mind when I needed to do it, as in like, this is going to be just painful, just trying to make this work, because I wanted a nice looking ceiling. And it's like all curves and such. I didn't want just a flat ceiling, I wanted the nice arch ceiling. But then there's curves, and then there's curves on curves, and in the end, it was actually surprisingly easy. Mostly because like the roof and the outside part of the roof, there's quite a lot of distance between those. So I had a lot of space to just like shove things in. Because every building that I've built so far where there's no interior, the interior looks like a porcupine. The main entrance building looks like a porcupine, even though I want to redo parts of it just to like redo them because I can make them better, especially that clock. But, well, not the clock on the station part of the entrance, but like the main clock on the outside, because that looks horrible now that I look at it. And now that I kind of figured out how to use the moving platforms and such. But back to the actual building here. So I just wanted a nice arch ceiling with marble and such. I was kind of debating later on, should I make it like sort of like blue so that it mimics the sky, or should I keep it this color? I think it went a little bit lighter than this, but not much. But the blue just kind of stood out in a weird way. So eventually it just stayed like this. I built some nice chandeliers to hang from it. I put up some giant paintings. One of them is from, I think, Madame de Pompadour, because I just know some names and some or most I don't. Anyway, so put up some paintings, put up some nice just like friezes, a lot of pillars. And then I had to make the entrance bits between the actual wings of the building. And I wanted to first make them out of wood, because I thought like, oh yeah, for the interior would have nice wooden beams and nice wooden framing on the sides of the walls. We do eventually end up with wooden framing, but the beams or the pillars, those are just the stone ones, because I couldn't make them look well or fancy with the wood. Because most of the wooden pieces, if you paint them or turn them entirely white, they don't actually turn entirely white. They're still like the dark brown bits. So that makes it look really bad. In a way that like it doesn't look fancy at all. It just looks kind of weird and badly painted. So it made it look very cheap compared to like the rest of this building. So that would just stand out like a sore thumb. So in the end it was just like, alright, it's just going to have to be marble again, or at least stone. Now, when it came to actually figuring out how to make this work, because the potting had to go through here still, It actually does work. Like, the guests have no issue getting in here. I did do a little bit of a trial just to, like, oh, I laid down all of the potting. Let's just let the game go for an hour. See if the guests actually come in here with the restaurant bit later on. They do. They don't use this wing yet because there's not enough guests in the park yet. Mythos at right now doesn't actually generate enough guests to make nice cinematics for this place. So the cinematics at the end of this video are going to be of an empty restaurant because I can't force enough of the guests to get in here yet. And that's probably going to be a thing for other things as well. Because right now, Mythos, I think, gets like 300 guests. I need to put in more rides to probably attract more guests. But that's not enough to fill up the restaurant because they just go towards the rides and kind of starve. Like, I've seen guests walk around just fully starving and they didn't go to the restaurant. Not because they couldn't get in here, because some did go in here. But yeah, maybe we'll have some cinematics when I finish the main street, because I think by that point I will have done a few other flat rides. Again, I have that idea for like a flat ride in the Arabian area. I also have an idea for a drop tower in the Arthurian area. But I think the drop tower that we have is kind of ginormous. I don't think I want a ginormous drop tower. Anyway, made a chandelier. This is the first version, which I would like if the wires between all of the light bulbs were colorable. Now it's just black, and it just didn't look great. So then in the end, I used this light, which I've used everywhere. It works because Mythos in the main street is supposed to be kind of steampunky. So this light or this chandelier kind of works. It wouldn't work anywhere else. And I didn't, like, at first I thought like, oh, I want candles because a chandelier, candles. But then I thought just like, oh yeah, Mythos is supposed to be kind of steampunky. So having this kind of chandelier would kind of work. But yeah, there you can also already see the paintings here that I hung up. I just made them giant because they're up on the ceiling. Then I thought, oh, if they're flat against the wall, you can't really see them from down there. So I made them just hanging a bit, so that when you're sitting down there and look up, you can actually see the painting and what the painting is about, instead of just looking at it from like a weird angle that the painting just doesn't work. Put in some lights so that you can see the paintings at night as well, because as I said at the beginning of this video, I think that this restaurant is open for just a little bit longer than the rest of the park is going to be open for. So it makes sense that I just proper lights even at nighttime. The lights actually were a problem because this is something that is an issue in Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster 2. I don't know if it's an issue in Planet Coaster 1, but I haven't played enough with lights in Planet Coaster 1. But the issue that I'm running into is when you put on a lot of lights, the lights start actually glitching out. And you get this like sort of square, like sort of glitchy thing with the lights where I think it's like all of the light sources just kind of fighting with each other because there's so many. And so when it came to the restaurant, I actually had some like floodlights at the end or at the outside looking or pointing upwards, and I had to remove those because there was that issue again with the lighting. Now the issue is only when you look at it from like very specific angles, but it is kind of annoying. But anyways, then I needed to make some doors for the kitchen. I first wanted to make the entire kitchen visible. But here comes the issue with the restaurant thing. It's just a completely squared off box. Like with the counters completely surrounding it. So you had to hide the counters to make it sort of work. And so this was the first attempt. And I was just like, oh yeah, let's ignore one of the counters. But it just looked really bad. So in the end, I actually hit all of the kitchen. Like, all of the restaurant bit, except the front where the staff member shit or stands, I think he goes through the back to get, like, the food or prepare the food, or at least do, like, the animation thing. So I just made a door that he goes through or clips through. I don't care if guests clip through doors, or staff or NPCs clip through doors in this game, because if I would, then I would probably not be able to sleep anymore. So I just made a door. Then there was the annoying bit of like, oh yeah, there's a cutting board that's still visible. And I hit that with like some sort of box with like menus and salt and pepper shakers and such on it, just to hide the cutting boards. But it's basically just like a hostess stand, but a little bit different because I have to work with what's in game. But yeah, this was just, I thought that the roofing was going to be a nightmare, or at least the interior part of the roofing. No, the kitchen ended up being the nightmare. I mean, it was such a nightmare because like there's like the restaurant bit that I hit, and then there's this visible part of the kitchen to the right of it. After I finished building up like the restaurant bit in the center, I just had to take a break. I just had to just go away from the kitchen for a bit, because I was just like, all right, what am I going to do here? Because it doesn't make sense that the kitchen is just like sort of separated off. What am I going to do here? And it's also like, it's a restaurant, but you have trays, like plastic trays. It really reminded me of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, where there's a level where you serve in a restaurant with trays like that. It's basically like a buffet kind of thingy, I think. But yeah, a lot of things remind me of a lot of other things, but none of them ever make true sense. But that's me pretty much. I also don't make sense a lot of the time, but I literally just then ended up thinking, all right, this is just going to be like the washing station. So this is where, if you're not setting your tray in one of the like the stands where you can put your trays in, and then staff will just like take those stands to the back and clean them, or at least take all of the trays out of those stands and clean all of it that's on the tray. If you don't bring it there, you can actually bring it to like the washing area yourself, which is probably what I would do, because it's just a nicer thing to do. Because then you don't have the staff to get your tray, you bring your tray to the washing area. So I actually had to make a sink, which was fun. Again, I made another ceiling, because of course. I would think that like, at first I wanted to build a wedding arch here, because it looks like an area where you could like hire off a wing to have a wedding. And then hyperfocus set in. Because this is where I had to take a break from building the kitchen. I mean, building the ceiling was already just like me kind of running away from the kitchen. But here it was just like, at the beginning of this video I mentioned that the restaurant was supposed to look like the theater cafe in Assassin's Creed Unity in Paris, which has, as the name suggests, has a theater in it, or at least a stage. I wanted to build a stage, and then I built a stage, because why not? So I would suspect that like one of like the mascots either come here, or they have like a sort of goofy show, because this is not supposed to be a serious show or anything. And just have some entertainment while you dine. I for a second thought like, oh, should I put an animatronic here? We're not that far into Five Nights at Freddy's yet. Funnily enough, I have never played any of the Five Nights at Freddy's games. I just watched them on YouTube, because I am a huge scaredy cat when it comes to jump scares. And I will actually like just jump in my chair, or just throw my chair back because of a jump scare. So I'm not going to do that, because Five Nights at Freddy's is basically jump scares the video game. So not going to do that. But for all of your theater geeks, here, you have a stage. And I actually had fun because like some of the signs in Planet Coaster that you can use for like leaves and such, you can actually like size down and just make them into like obvious theater props. Like the ones that you just see in like comics and such and cheesy movies and such. I just had fun with that. To just be like, oh yeah, this looks like a fake bush and then have a sun, but that's obviously dangling from a rope. I just had a lot of fun with that, and then I had to go back to the kitchen. The fun was over. I needed to build a sink. The main part of the sink was easy, but then usually restaurant sinks also have like the... what do you call it? The hose kind of attachment to a sink, and... oh boy. Trying to find something that could work for that was something. In the end, I just used a tiny part of like the... what's it called? The coaster supports. Because you can make those really tiny. Like the beams and such from the coaster supports. You can make those really tiny. And then I just turned it black and added something that I think kind of looked like a nozzle. I don't know for certain anymore because this is just all in the mental void. I built this, I have no idea anymore, and I don't want to think about it anymore because it was just horror. But then I also later on hyper-focused and built trays and plates. So like, there's this horror, and then we're just moving on to hyper-focus mode again. And I actually used one of the sign thingies, I think, from the fountain that I did in the last video. Or last video in the... yeah, I think in the last video. And then made it so that one of the sinks was actually full and like plates were being washed and such. Do I think you would get paper plates here? Potentially, because look at those trays. I actually made them to look like the trays in-game. And yeah, it looks like you would get paper plates here. So I don't know what they're washing. Maybe it's like, oh, the tray is very plasticky and just cheap looking. But then they actually put some money in the plate, so you get actual plates. Makes sense, because otherwise everything could just be thrown in the trash and you would need a washing station. Yeah, here's also where I hit that cutting board because it just looks bad there. So I just made it like some sort of stand where they have like extra menus, salt and pepper shakers and the things. I just looked up like, oh, what would be at a hostess stand? And this, alright, let's put it there. There are some trays here, but it makes sense because like this restaurant for some reason has trays. And then I thought like, oh yeah, let's put the fencing bit that I made so that the restaurant biddy thingy hostess thing is kind of separated. Let's put that in the rest of the restaurant, and then it was just like, no, now it's too closed off. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about the tray cubicle thingies. The things where you put the tray when you're done eating. If you're not bringing it to the washing station. Which I would actually get for the first wing that we built. So the wing without the theater, basically. Or without the stage. Because that's a little bit of a distance away from the washing station. If you are in like the stage section of the restaurant, I do expect you to bring the tray to the washing station and not burden the restaurant staff. But then I also know that there's going to be people who just can't be bothered and will put it in. Well, maybe they will not even put it away. They will just keep it at the table and well, some staff member has to go and clean it. I just can't imagine myself ever doing that. Like, if I make a mess at the table, I will try and clean it up. I will. Any crumbs, I will just like scoop into my hands, put into the tray, and then not leave those crumbs at the table. It's also like with hotels where I'm like, I need to like clean. I can't leave anything dirty. I'm not that much of a neat freak, especially in my own home. But when it comes to like hotels and restaurants, I just can't leave things dirty. Because I feel like a burden then to the staff, and no. We're going to try and keep it clean so that they have less work. We're going to, like, if we're at a hotel, make sure that the bed is nice. Or at least still make certain that, like, they know that it's been used. But not have it so that, like, the bed linen is just, like, everywhere. Just neatly folded onto the bed. And that's it. But anyways, to the exterior. And I thought, oh yeah, there's another building that I built. It does have a tower because I can't build a tower for this restaurant. So I built a tower for the other building because it's just a facade. So I could just have a tower there. But I thought, oh, let's put it with this video because it's kind of essential for like the look of the restaurant. Not really, but it just kind of killed the vibe when there was just a block next to the restaurant. And I thought like, oh, let's put it into this video. I didn't think that this video was going to be like almost 50 minutes long already on its own. So that facade is just going to be its own video, or it's never going to be a video. I don't know. I don't want to do endless facade videos. But I really thought like, oh yeah, this video needs some more length, so I'm going to do that facade as well. And now that I put it all together, this video is almost 50 minutes, maybe just beyond. And yeah, we're not going to do that because I like having my voice. I'm not going to make an hour-long video because that's just going to kill me. But I had a lot of fun when it came to just like all of the foliage and such, hiding the actual flooring on the inside. Because yes, that flooring on the inside, it's not any of the standard floor spots that you can lay down. I made a custom floor of the marble pillar thingies. However, to make it, it kind of sticks out into the walls, or out of the walls on the outside, so it was visible. So I needed to put plants on the outside just to hide it. So there's now two things that you can use to hide your mistakes, or hide the flaws of a build: plants and pillars. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe button if you want to see more. And with that, I wish you all a wonderful day, guys. Bye bye.